It is 39 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Morning Express. Time now for our dawn debate. And in studio this morning, we will be speaking to Susan Silantoi Lelengwa, who is a 23-year-old independent candidate for the Nairobi senatorial position. Many thanks for joining us, Silantoi. And we also have born again a security consultant, Dennis Nthumbi of the Agano Party, who is also a senatorial aspirant for Nairobi County. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Dennis. So you are both running for the senatorial seat. Of course, your presence in politics hasn't been seen much. Silantoi, I believe this is your first time in politics. Why now?
Thank you for having me. My name is actually Lengewa.
It's Lengewa?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You asked me why now, and I'm wondering why not now? What is the right time for the young people to get into politics? And so at this point in time, I felt like we can't sit back anymore and wait for people to do things for us. We have to get in there ourselves and try and make the change that we want to see.
The thing is, you're 23. I mean, I don't remember where I was at 23. I was probably already working here. But you know, at 23, many don't have a vision of leading others. They're still trying to figure their life out. So when did you realize that you wanted to do this?
So I've always wanted to make a difference somehow in the leadership aspect of this country. And so I've always waited for the right time. I voted last time and I was happy about it. But this time I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be disappointed anymore. I'm going to do something myself.
Right. And
I just want to add that the aspect of age, a lot of young people have gotten into politics. A lot of great leaders were actually really young. We have a senator for Kericho County. His name is Aaron Cheriot. He also got into politics when he was only 29, and he was a senator.
Right.
He still is.
Right.
And so even leaders like Tomboya, they were also very young leaders, but they were able to make a very big difference for people.
All right.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that Aaron Cheriot issue in just a moment. But Dennis, for you, why now and why the Senate position, not MCA, Member of Parliament, not President?
Well, president maybe, but you know, thank you. That's a very valid question. Why now? I didn't get into politics now. I just got into elective politics. But my interest for leadership has been there from a very young age, from all the way from school, church, community thereabout. My interest in politics and political leadership, of course, was inspired by a vision and a call from God. But not just it. I think for me, leaders are neither born nor made. Leaders are people in a nation who respond to a call of crisis through a time of crisis. And I believe in Kenya, we have not just a moral crisis, but a crisis where we have apathy even to build our nation. We have taken away hope from our families and from the nation. And we need to restore the glory of this country for the glory of God.
All right, and that is something we want to talk about because you are the founder of Christian in Politics.
Correct.
And it's a very controversial topic when it comes to politics and Christianity.
Correct.
We've seen a lot of backlash being directed towards Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, with many saying it's about time she drops the name Bishop, because politics is billed as a dirty game, and many don't understand how a man of the cloth can also be a politician. So how are you going about this and still maintaining your integrity as a Christian?
The interesting thing is that, first of all, it's not true that politics is not for Christians. In fact, there's truly nobody else who can be ordained by God to be a political leader or to take a nation forth, because who are they answerable to? You know, and leadership is in the full interest of God. Even in the Bible, you have people like David, who basically had a priestly and a kingly anointing, and who are answerable to God to take the nations forth. Who gave us Kenya? Who is the owner of life? It is God primarily and principally. The name Bishop actually comes from you know, a background of a governor. You know from where it is that it came from. So truly, a Christian is called to the dirtiest and darkest places on earth. Jesus Christ himself, from a godly deity into the filth of the earth, died on the cross like a thief.
All right.
Took all the embarrassments that they are about. So Christians, we are called to be the light and the salt of the earth. Light is to the darkness and salt is to rot. So if you see anything that's going wrong principally, that's the work of the Christian person to go and correct that.
All right, and we will be discussing that in a moment because in terms of Christianity, I mean, we've seen Bishop Margaret Wanjiru being involved in several allegations, one of them being voter bribery, and there's video evidence for things like that, but we'll get to that. Silantoi, let's talk about your vision for the people of Nairobi. How well, first of all, do you know Nairobi County?
So I was born here. I've lived here all my life. And so the things that Nairobians go through, I go through them myself. And therefore, I feel like I have a good understanding of what Nairobi needs and what Nairobi needs to get to where we need to be.
What is it that Nairobi needs? Have you visited all the slums, for example, to get a clear vision of what it is they need?
I've been to several slums. I have friends who live there. I have people who live there. I know people, I've gone to school with people who live there. And so it's not that I don't have an understanding of it. I'm aware of what is going on. Yeah.
All right.
So my vision for Nairobi is that I want Nairobians to live well. I want Nairobians to live in dignity. How will I do this? First of all, I just want to say that the work of a senator is to make sure that people benefit from devolution, the people of the specific county that they're from. And so as Nairobi, I want us to fully enjoy devolution. With that being said, some things are already devolved, like health, which is a major issue that we have in Nairobi, because there are only 161 health facilities in Nairobi with a population of about 3.3 million people. That is not even enough. If you go to a constituency like Embakasi West, there's a population of 185,000 people, and there are only 6 public health facilities.
How do you plan to change that with the current crisis that we're facing in the health sector?
I think the health professionals need to be respected, and they do a very good job for us. And therefore, as a senator, I'll be able to advocate for more funds for them to be able to get paid on time and to be able to be paid their dues as they've been promised by the government. Yeah.
All right, and I'm going to come back to your second goal because I have them right here. But Dennis, you're also a security consultant, a security expert.
Correct.
Nairobi County suffers from a lot of insecurity.
Yes.
Very recently, we've seen the rise of youth gangs like the Gaza gang, for example. What would you do as senator that would turn the situation around?
It's interesting you brought that question up, and it's a very, very valid question in our time, in our season. And as a security expert, one of the things I know is that a solution to security is not actually baptizing your offenders with lead. The people who stand to lose the most in any bad governance or bad leadership is actually the youth. The current system has completely disregarded giving the youth hope and basically establishing some primary seeding to mentor and prop the youth so that they can take care of life. Now, as a youth in Nairobi, one of the things before God gave me an opportunity, the thing that was most attractive to me was actually crime. And I almost bundled into gangs because guess what? It pays you immediately, it gives you power, it gives you influence, it gives you everything else. But when you look at what comes from the state, there's absolutely no inkling of hope. We have 1 million youth who basically graduate from the universities. With the current education crisis and Matiang'i crisis, we have 70% of young people who dropped from furthering education, whether it's through TVET or through universities or whatever it is. Where are those guys going to go to? You understand? So one of the things I want to do is basically come up with community interventions, government interventions, and faith-based community interventions to make sure that we give a seeding hope to the youth in this country. You know, you cannot blame them for
so how
what
are you
it is
planning
that they're
to
doing.
implement that?
One of the
How is
things
that
I
hope
want
going to come in?
one of the things I want to do, one of my key things in the undertakings, the agenda is basically the youth. One of the things I want to do is basically advocate for the establishment of IT innovation centers where information on employment, tenders will be accessible to them. There has been so much tendering that has gone into place, youth haven't benefited. In fact, what is being accessed to them for Liz to say, is that they've been getting loans from their own money. You cannot loan people their money. Thereabout. The other thing I want to do is basically champion the establishment of business incubation centers to facilitate the youth start and grow their businesses. When you go to town, actually, it's interesting to note that a lot of the business is driven by the youth, but they struggle. I speak to them, I use matatus, I buy from them thereabout, I listen to them. And one of the things I said is that I'm going to increase my use of public transport. I'm going to walk within. I have lived in the ghetto. I know these guys how
and
they live.
is this going to continue after your campaign?
It will. You know, let me tell you
how
what.
How often
I
do
did
you
not
see a mheshimiwa and a senator
No, first of
taking
all,
a
I
matatu
am
to
not a
town?
mheshimiwa or politicians or thereabout. I have a vision, you understand?
All right.
A lot of the guys who are coming through Senate don't have a vision. They were basically bundled there by default,
All right.
so that then they can sustain power. But I have a very robust plan to prop up the youth in this country. Once we give them opportunities and mentorship and they carry on to crime, then we can discuss any harsh measures based on the Constitution.
All right. The bigger perception when it comes to the senatorial position is that many senators have not really fulfilled their mandate. There's been a lot of questions in the Auditor General's report, a lot of things going wrong within the county, and it all lies on the senator in terms of legislation. So, Silantoi, among your goals is that funds allocated by Treasury and raised by the county are used with efficiency to benefit all Nairobians. Nairobi County is not absolved from the Auditor General's report in terms of misappropriation of funds. How are you, should you clinch this position, planning to ensure that there will be no misappropriation of public funds?
So as a senator, there are systems that are in place that you can report some of these things, like misappropriation of funds. And therefore, as a senator of integrity, I would be able to report if there is any issue. But that's not the first thing that you should do. The first thing is to have a discussion with the governor so that you can be able to get some kind of consensus so that people are able to work out some way in which we can do it. So as a senator, I would be involved in negotiating for these things. A lot of misappropriation of funds is because people who are there, actually, I just want to say that the budgets that are in place are actually good budgets, most of them. But if they're implemented to the letter, people will be able to benefit from them.
Right.
And that's what I mean by being able to benefit from all the funds that are allocated to us from the government and also through revenue collection. Yeah.
All right, and of course, it's not a very easy job, but how are you planning to win this election? Because at the end of the day, the numbers matter. You're an independent candidate. You mentioned the likes of Aaron Cheruiyot, a very young senator. And let's not forget that he is backed by Jubilee Party, which is a large party. It's not very easy to run as an independent candidate. What's your strategy?
My strategy is not to bribe anybody, because I feel like a lot of people would bribe the electorate to vote for them. And therefore, I would be able to speak to people and appeal to them because I am one of them. And therefore, they would be able to vote for me through networks of people that I know, through churches that I'm also part of, and also through youth groups and the university circles, which I was part of.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have your final word on this as we wind up. What would you want the people of Nairobi to know? Who is Silantoi? What is she running on? And why should they vote for her?
Susan is a born-again Christian also, who is passionate about the affairs of this country and who feels like it is time that we change the course of our country for ourselves as young people. Young people have been disadvantaged in a lot of ways, and as a senator, I would like to come up with initiatives to enable young people to get jobs and also to empower them to be able to run businesses. I accept that I recognize that the Jubilee government has tried to give the youth capital in terms of the youth fund, but I feel like some of the youth lack the skills to be able to run businesses, and therefore, as a senator, I'd advocate for the youth to be able to use the existing social amenities that are already there, and in partnership with the county government and the private sector, to be able to provide them with basic skills for them to actually be able to run businesses.
All right.
And in addition to that, the youth are able to, the youth have gone to school. They've gone to university, but some of them are still unemployable. And so because of that, as a senator, I'd come up with initiatives to have the youth be given internships in the government so that the government can offer them some kind of experience so that they're able to be employable also, because we accept that not everybody is able to do business,
Right.
but some people have the qualifications to be employed, and therefore we just need to empower them a little bit. And in that way, we'll sort out a majority of the issues that are in Nairobi because of unemployment.
Right, and of course, one of those things will be education, which we'll be discussing later on. But Dennis, very briefly, as we wind up, what's your strategy for winning this election? Are you running under the Agano Party?
Correct.
Yes.
Agano Party is a party that was born from a prayer movement. It's basically, Agano stands for covenant. It stands for new hope. It stands for a future that is there for us to take. First of all, I have a vision. I have a mission, and my philosophy is basically servant leadership. And I'm going to use my expertise that God has given me as a security. In fact, one of my taglines is that it's time to stop Nairobas. It's almost about over 70 billion, Kenya shillings later in the county. We haven't seen anything from the ward level all the way to the county level. One of the things we need to do is quickly stop the bleed. And I want to marshal 2 million strong Nairobians to be part of my oversight team. And that constitutes faith-based organizations and other community-based organizations, so that money can make sense for us at the ward level. You understand? So that we can give hope to the youth, to the women, persons living with disability. We can change our education system. And you know what? We can put food on the table finally. We can clothe our children. And we can benchmark Nairobi with global cities that are developing. You know, Tokyo, Helsinki, Shanghai, London, and other cities that are developing. When I listen to the gubernatorial candidates, one of the things that is really irritating me as a Nairobi resident is that their vision is collecting garbage. It's like I ask you, what is your vision for life? You tell me my vision is showering. That is something you're supposed to do on a daily basis. We have to have leaders with a compelling vision. But one of the things we're likely to do is by accident vote something based on party or tribal inclinations that somebody will not deliver. And that's the reason why I want to be there to provide proper representation, oversight and legislate what the people of Nairobi desire.
All right. Many thanks for joining us. That is Dennis Nthumbi, who is a senatorial aspirant for Nairobi County under the Agano Party. We've also been speaking to Susan Lengewa, who is an independent candidate also running for the Nairobi senatorial position. And she is just 23 years old. Very refreshing to see young Turks getting into the political scene. And that conversation brings us to a close on our Dawn debate and a short break here on Morning Express. When we come back, more news coming up. But remember, it is Thursday, so we'll be coming back with our State of the Nation conversation. Today, our focus is on the promise of free secondary education. We have education and economic experts in studio to help us dissect how viable this promise is for the country. Do stay with us.